Hello, spare changers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is where I share a little spare blessing, and with the hope that it makes a change in your day or your week or your life. So today is actually one of my very favorite spare changes ever, and it's from a conversation that just happened to me this past week. This very day is actually my 37th birthday, and so this is the gift that has been giving to me all week, and now I want to give it to you. So I met a new neighbor. He was telling me about his dog, and his dog's name is Webster, and I said, I have to meet your dog. I have to at least see a picture of him. And my neighbor shows me this picture of Webster, who's about 9 feet long and 3 feet tall, and he's just a big old slobber monster. So my neighbor is telling me how Webster is a therapy dog, and one of his kind of details is to go to the diabetes clinic. It's where the patients who have just gotten a limb amputated go to convalesce, to be rehabilitated. Webster will come in and just love on these people who my neighbor says are quite miserable for reasons that are understandable. He said that there is some chemical in the brain that causes these recent amputees, when they see Webster, to forget all about how they've lost a limb or lost both limbs, and to just lunge forward toward this dog, this slobber monster. That story touched me so deeply, because I've never had a limb amputated, but I have definitely broken my leg, and I remember the misery that I was in. I remember thinking I will never take walking or running for granted again. But I think a lot of us can relate to the feeling of walking around with a limp, or feeling as though we have a limb that is broken, or we've lost a limb because we have experienced something so wounding. We're walking around with this limp or with this brokenness, and it's all we can focus on. We are so full of relief when there's some kind of force in our lives that causes us to forget about that. You know, one of my girlfriends, she's been through a really rough year, and she just got back into some work that she really loves, and she has had a leg injury, and she says when she's doing this particular work that she loves, she doesn't have a leg injury. She doesn't even think about it. She is floating around the room. Now, this is not an indictment of anyone who's going through a really painful time or who is just shattered and can't really focus on anything else besides the pain. But I think we all know that when we are caused to forget about it, then our body has a chance to breathe and our hearts have a chance to rest. And I was telling this story about Webster to my friend Brandy, and she said, you know what, for those patients, is it the fact that they forget that they're amputees, or that they are remembering that they were once whole? And I thought, you know what, that's the spare change for today, is that we can trust that Jesus has experienced all the woundedness that this world has to offer, and probably the worst kind of woundedness and death. But he also knows what it's like to see us as new creations and to see this world as it was meant to be. And the verse I want to call to mind today is actually from John chapter 5. We're dealing with an invalid. Jesus meets an invalid who had been in that condition for his whole life, we presume, 38 years. And that's basically my whole life. That's more than my entire life. Jesus says to the man, do you want to be made whole? He doesn't say, do you want to be improved? He doesn't say, do you want me to, kind of cause you to forget about this? He says, do you want to be made whole? And I think that that's probably the most piercing verse that I can call to mind whenever I'm trying to cope with my own pain or deal with some area of my life. that I know that wholeness exists in Jesus because he created us to be whole and not broken people. So my hope for you today and for your tomorrow is that you walk and lunge toward the Websters in your life, that you are reaching for the sources of joy, perhaps to forget some temporary misery, or perhaps to remember your wholeness in God.